But let's take a closer look now at the executive mayor of Johannesburg, Kabelo Gwamanda's address for the city of Johannesburg. We're joined by analyst Miyelani Holeni, who joins us now via Zoom. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Miyelani, and a good morning to you. I think, firstly, let's start with this. We certainly know that the city of Johannesburg is one that has faced many, many crises, and we can talk about so many other things. Really, the list can go on and on and on. There's the financial issues. There's, of course, service delivery matters. When you watched the mayor's address this morning, let's start with whether or not you find that was confidence building for the citizens of Johannesburg.
Well, I'm not very qualified to comment, in terms of the confidence building, but I think what we heard from the speech of the executive mayor is one that tries to encompass what the city is wanting to achieve, at least in the next financial year. But we also wanted to get a sense as to where the city is going, because the city, as you've mentioned, Naledi, has gone through tumultuous changes in terms of governance and government. With regards to the various political parties taking over. So in this case, I think where my struggle will be is to where is the city of Johannesburg in the map of the big, glorious cities on the African continent? And there we also compare it to the rest of the cities in terms of the world. Our belief is that Johannesburg has lost a bit of its shine. And this is a city that is struggling and must look at how to start gaining some of the glitter so that it becomes that city of gold that we know.
Yeah, I think let's talk a little bit about the kind of detail and minutia perhaps that maybe would be able to give you those answers that you're looking for, because one expects that when you've got a State of the City address, obviously there is going to be the more macro sort of visionary speak that we'll be getting from the executive mayor. But are we getting the minutia and the details really of what plans look like to turn the city around? I mean, just even in terms of bringing back the cameras on our roads and visibility and even police visibility, are we getting the minutia and the details? An action plan that speaks to bettering what is economically a critical city for the continent.
Yeah, I think a couple of mentions from the executive mayor that talks of the city of Johannesburg as an economic hub. That is accurate, because Johannesburg, in terms of leading as a city, especially in the South African context, even in the Southern African context, or even taking it, across the continent, is one city that leads quite, with innovation. It leads, with stealth. It leads with various, things there. So I think the point which we need to zero in is that where is that detail that turns around the city of Johannesburg? From a governance point of view, from a city that is able to deliver for the citizens, from a city that is also able to carry itself out of the difficulties that were imposed, unfortunately, by the likes of COVID. The city as well needs to lead the way with regards to making the state-owned, municipal-owned entities to work. The city power, which is a big entity that must bring in a huge revenue, Joburg Water, and all the other entities. So I think the point of where the mayor at least focused on, which is appreciated, is the issues that deal with the community of the various halls that or the centers that are going to serve the communities. He mentioned the issue of potholes, which is of grave concern. Also, as well, we needed to hear a bit more about how the city is going to shield its citizens around the issue of load shedding. We've seen other cities which are making attempts in terms of making sure that the city continues to work.
Yeah, let me step in there, Miyelani, and I apologize for that. I'm doing it really in the interest of time, because we've just, myself and my colleague Eldrin, been looking at the findings of the 3 reports from the Department of Water and Sanitation, very concerning the data that they've shared with us about the treatment of our water, availability of our water, and certainly the quality of the water coming into our homes in the country. I mean, what do you make of that particular issue? And, whether or not you bring it back to the mayor or just generally as a country, what's the kind of urgency that we need to be seeing to deal with our water challenges, and what's the true cost if we're not able to do that sufficiently and urgently?
Naledi, I often speak of capability in a city. I think the capabilities that are required in a city, 3 key things: strategy, leadership, and service delivery. Service delivery is suffering because perhaps, the strategy of the city is not coherent and aligned with regards to its operating model for it to be able to deliver the basic services. And water is that basic service that must be purified. If the purification stations are, for whatever reason, not functional, there's a grave issue. But there needs to be backup plans that ensure that such facilities which are delivering clean water and must deliver clean water daily. So it's a concern that we are not able to bring the quality of water, and we can appreciate it takes a lot to get to a blue drop status, but that is something that is expected of a city that is leading on the continent. So those reports are of concern, and we've seen it across even the other metros which have also faced similar water crisis, and that is what perhaps the plan of turning around the city must look at. How do we turn around the water situation? How do we turn around in terms of roads? How do we turn around for the provision of electricity, and how do we shield the citizens from some of the economic realities that are hitting them? And those are, I think that is something that we must always go back to whenever a state of the city is addressed. But as well, where are the gains that have also been made, and where is the city going within the next 5 years until the end of the governance term that is in place?
Yeah, well, thank you for that, and it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Miyelani Holeni there, an analyst, is speaking to us about his views on the State of the City addresses given to us by Executive Mayor Gwamanda, who at the same time, while really, giving us a plan of what he wants to see, in what direction he wants to see the city going in, we're also hearing from Action SA in Johannesburg that they are working towards a vote of no confidence against Gwamanda, wanting him to explain the allegations of scamming against him. But we'll keep you updated on that story as well.